My name is Monica, and my story begins in a bustling household where love was abundant, if not always equally distributed. Growing up, our home was a cacophony of laughter, cries, and the constant patter of little feet. I was the second oldest, sandwiched between my brother Jake, who was just a year my senior, and my two younger sisters, Emma and Lily, who came into our lives when I was already in my early teens. From an early age, I learned the art of responsibility. While other kids my age were out playing, I was often found in our modest kitchen, helping Mom prepare dinner, or in the living room, cradling a fussy Emma or Lily. It wasn't always easy, but it taught me invaluable lessons about compassion and hard work. Our parents, John and Sarah, were hardworking individuals who dreamed of giving us a better life than they had. Dad worked long hours at the local factory, while Mom juggled part-time jobs and household duties. They weren't rich by any means, but they managed to keep food on the table and a roof over our heads. However, there was an undercurrent in our family dynamics that I couldn't ignore. Jake, my older brother, seemed to hold a special place in our parents' hearts. "Jake's the oldest," Dad would say, ruffling his hair affectionately. "He's carrying on the family name. That comes with responsibilities and perks." As we grew older, the disparity became more apparent. When it came time for high school graduation, Jake got a car. I got a heartfelt card and a promise that they'd help with college expenses. It wasn't that I was unloved, far from it. But the preference was clear, and it shaped our family dynamics in subtle ways. My sisters, Emma and Lily, looked up to me with adoring eyes. Being significantly younger, they often saw me as a second mother figure. I took this role seriously, determined to be the kind of role model they deserved. As high school drew to a close, I set my sights on college. My parents, true to their word, had set aside money for our education. It wasn't enough to cover everything, but it was a start. I chose to study finance, a practical field that I hoped would lead to a stable career. My chosen field of study, finance, proved to be as demanding as I'd anticipated. Long nights in the library became my new normal, but I tackled each assignment with the same determination I'd applied to helping Mom with household chores. Despite the workload, I made sure to call home regularly. Mom would fill me in on the family gossip, Dad would grunt his hellos, and my sisters would fight over the phone to tell me about their days. Jake's updates were less frequent, usually relayed through Mom. He'd started working at a local company, showing little interest in further education. Our parents, especially Dad, seemed pleased with his progress. "Your brother's really finding his feet in the business world," Dad would say during our infrequent conversations. "He's got a knack for it." I'd murmur my agreement, pushing down the small spark of competitiveness that flared up. This wasn't a race, I reminded myself. We each had our own paths to follow. As the years passed, I threw myself into my studies and part-time jobs, determined to make the most of the opportunity my parents had given me. Their financial support, while not covering everything, was a lifeline I was deeply grateful for. I knew the sacrifices they were making to keep me in school, and I was determined not to let them down. Graduation day arrived before I knew it. As I stood in my cap and gown, diploma in hand, I scanned the crowd for my family. There they were, Mom and Dad beaming with pride, Emma and Lily waving enthusiastically, and even Jake had made it, standing a bit apart with a half smile on his face. After the ceremony, Mom hugged me tight. "We're so proud of you, honey," she said, her eyes glistening. Dad nodded, patting my shoulder awkwardly but affectionately. "You've done well, Monica. Now it's time to make your mark in the world." As we celebrated over dinner, I shared my plans to stay in the city and start my career. A part of me had considered returning home, but the opportunities here were too good to pass up. My entry-level position at a financial firm demanded long hours. Visits home became less frequent, limited to major holidays and the occasional long weekend. But I never forgot my roots, calling regularly and sending care packages to my sisters. It was during one of my rare visits home, nearly a decade after I'd first left for college, that everything changed. I was sitting in the kitchen with Mom, catching up over coffee, when my phone rang. It was my boss. "Monica, I have some news," he said, his voice unusually serious. "We're opening a new branch in your hometown, and I want you to head it up. It's a big promotion, but it would mean relocating. Are you interested?" "Yes," I heard myself say. "I'm definitely interested." When I got the job offer back in my hometown, my company said they'd pay for an apartment. But Mom and Dad insisted I move back home. "Come on, Monica," Mom pleaded, "it'll be just like old times." I couldn't say no. On my first day back, I walked into our old house. It looked smaller than I remembered. Emma and Lily, now in their late teens, ran to hug me. Jake lived separately and was already engaged. Later that night, after unpacking, I sat with Emma and Lily in our old room. It felt good to be back, listening to their stories and laughing together. "So, tell me about Jake's fiancée," I said. Emma and Lily shared a look. "Her name's Vanessa," Emma said slowly. "She's different." Lily nodded. "Yeah, she's from a rich family. Her dad owns the company Jake works for now." Something in their tone made me curious. "Different how?" They didn't say much more, just shrugged and changed the subject. I decided to drop it for now. The next few weeks were busy. I started my new job, setting up the branch office. It was hard work, but I loved it. In the evenings, I'd help Emma and Lily with homework or chat with Mom while she cooked dinner. One Sunday, we were all sitting around the table when the doorbell rang. Mom jumped up to answer it. "It's Jake and Vanessa," she called out. I stood up, eager to see my brother and meet his fiancée. Jake walked in first, looking sharp in a suit. Behind him was a tall, slim woman with perfect hair and clothes that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Vanessa looked around our house like it was beneath her. "Oh, how quaint," she said, picking up one of Mom's knickknacks. I watched, confused, as Mom and Dad fussed over her. They kept asking if she needed anything, apologizing for the smallest things. Emma and Lily were quiet, eyes down. When Vanessa made a nasty comment about Lily's clothes, I'd had enough. I pulled Emma aside. "What's going on?" I whispered. "Why is everyone letting her act like this?" Emma sighed. "Jake works for her dad now. It's a big deal. Mom and Dad are scared if we upset her, Jake might lose his job." I was shocked. This wasn't the family I knew. We'd never let anyone treat us like this before. Things got worse at dinner. Vanessa started on me, making snide remarks about my job and clothes. I saw red. "Look," I snapped, "I don't know who you think you are, but in this house, we treat each other with respect. If you can't do that, maybe you should leave." The room went silent. Vanessa's face turned ugly. She stood up, grabbed her purse, and stormed out. Jake followed, looking torn. As soon as they left, Mom and Dad rounded on me. "Monica, how could you?" Mom cried. "You know how important this is for Jake." Dad looked disappointed. "You need to control your temper. This could ruin everything for your brother." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They kept at it, begging me to apologize, to be the bigger person. Finally, just to shut them up, I agreed to try and make peace with Vanessa. The weeks flew by, and suddenly Jake's wedding was all anyone could talk about. Vanessa took charge, bossing everyone around like she was running a military operation instead of planning a party. She dragged us to endless dress fittings, insisting we buy expensive gowns that matched the venue's aesthetic. When I suggested something more affordable, Vanessa just laughed. "Oh, Monica," she sneered, "we can't have you looking cheap at my wedding, can we?" The bachelorette party was next on her list. Vanessa handed out a minute-by-minute schedule, complete with mandatory activities and outfit changes. It was ridiculous, but Mom kept giving me these pleading looks, so I bit my tongue. Then came the bombshell. Vanessa wanted us to dance at the wedding. Not just a simple waltz, mind you. No, she was planning a full-on performance. "It'll be the highlight of the reception," she gushed. "You'll all look so cute." My stomach dropped. I'd hurt my back years ago in a car accident. Dancing wasn't really my thing anymore. But I figured, how bad could it be? Turns out, pretty bad. I showed up at the dance studio, and the choreographer started talking about splits and lifts and all sorts of crazy moves. Vanessa was there, barking orders like a drill sergeant. "Come on, ladies, put your backs into it." I pulled out my phone, thinking I'd record it to practice later. But as I watched, I realized there was no way I could do this. It was way too much. "Hold on," I said, "this is insane. We're not circus performers, Vanessa. I can't do these moves." Vanessa's face turned ugly. "What do you mean, you can't? Of course you can. Stop being difficult, Monica." I stood my ground. "No, I mean it. I have an old back injury. This kind of dancing isn't possible for me." That's when Vanessa really lost it. She started yelling, throwing around words I won't repeat. Then she hit me with this gem. "Fine. If you won't dance, you owe Jake $3,500 as a wedding gift. It's only fair, since you're ruining my special day." I was speechless. I looked at Emma and Lily, hoping they'd back me up. But they just stared at the floor, Mom's warnings clearly ringing in their ears. That was it. I'd had enough. "You know what, Vanessa? Keep your damn dance. I'm out of here." I stormed out of the studio, my hands shaking as I clutched my phone. The video of that disastrous rehearsal was still recording. As I walked home, my mind raced. What was I going to do now? How had things gotten this messed up? I burst through the front door, still fuming from the dance rehearsal fiasco. Mom and Dad were in the living room, and they could tell something was wrong. I spilled everything: the impossible dance routine, Vanessa's outrageous behavior, the $3,500 ultimatum. I expected sympathy, maybe even anger on my behalf. What I got was something else entirely. Dad's face turned red. "Monica, how could you? After everything we've talked about. This wedding is so important for Jake's future. You need to apologize to Vanessa right now and agree to do the dance." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Apologize? For what? Having a spine injury? Standing up for myself? "Stop being so selfish," Dad shouted. "This isn't about you. It's about Jake's happiness and success." "So my happiness doesn't matter?" I shot back. "My health?" The argument escalated quickly. Voices raised, tears were shed. I stood my ground, refusing to cave to Vanessa's ridiculous demands. That's when Dad dropped the bomb. "If you can't support your brother and his fiancée, then maybe you shouldn't be here at all." The room went silent. I packed a bag that night, ignoring Mom's half-hearted attempts to smooth things over. The next day, I moved into the apartment my company had originally offered. It was small and empty, but at least it was mine. The wedding came and went. I didn't attend, couldn't bear the thought of watching my family kowtow to Vanessa's every whim. I spent that day alone in my apartment, alternating between anger and sadness. A few days later, my phone exploded with notifications. Vanessa had made a post on social media, a long, dramatic tale about how I had tried to ruin her perfect day. She painted herself as the victim, me as the jealous, spiteful sister-in-law. The comments were worse. Relatives I hadn't seen in years were suddenly experts on my character, condemning me for my selfish and cruel behavior. Even Emma and Lily liked the post, a betrayal that cut deep. The call started soon after. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all wanting to tell me how disappointed they were, how I should be ashamed of myself. Emma tried to reach out once, sent a text saying she missed me. But when I suggested meeting up, she backpedaled, said Vanessa wouldn't like it. I didn't try again after that. I threw myself into my work, hoping to finish the project quickly and leave this town behind. But things kept getting delayed, problems cropping up that required my personal attention. Each extension felt like a twist of the knife. Months passed, and I settled into a lonely routine. Work, home, sleep, repeat. I'd almost gotten used to the silence when my phone rang one night. It was Lily. "Monica?" Her voice was small, trembling. "Can we talk?" We met at a cafe across town, away from prying eyes. Lily looked terrible, dark circles under her eyes, hair a mess. She burst into tears the moment she saw me. "I'm so sorry, Monica," she sobbed. "You were right about everything." Slowly, the whole story came out. After the wedding, Vanessa had shown her true colors. She'd been ordering Emma and Lily around like servants, making them clean her house, cook meals, do laundry, all without pay. "She says it's our duty as family," Lily said bitterly. "And Jake, he just goes along with it. He sees how she treats us and does nothing." My blood boiled. "What about Mom and Dad? Surely they don't approve?" Lily's laugh was hollow. "They think it's great. Say we're building character and cementing family bonds. It's like they're brainwashed or something." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This was worse than I'd imagined. "I'm so sorry I didn't stand up for you before," Lily whispered. I was scared. We all were. But now, I can't take it anymore. "Please, Monica, help us." The next day, I marched over to our parents' house. Mom answered the door, her smile fading when she saw me. "Monica, what are you doing here?" I pushed past her into the living room. Dad was there, looking up from his newspaper with a frown. "We need to talk," I said. "About Vanessa. About how she's treating Emma and Lily." Mom's face hardened. "I don't know what Lily's been telling you, but..." "Don't," I cut her off. "Don't try to deny it. I know everything. How can you let this happen? They're your daughters." Dad stood up, his voice cold. "Now you listen here, Monica. Vanessa is family now. She's given Jake opportunities we could only dream of. If the girls need to pitch in a little, that's a small price to pay." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "A little? She's treating them like slaves. And you're okay with this?" "You're exaggerating," Mom said weakly. "The girls are fine. They're just..." "Just what, Mom?" "Just being abused by their sister-in-law while their parents look the other way." Dad's face turned red. "That's enough. I won't have you coming in here, stirring up trouble. Vanessa is Jake's wife. She's wealthy, connected. She can give this family a future. If you can't accept that, then maybe you're not really part of this family anymore." The words hit me like a physical blow. I stared at them, these strangers wearing my parents' faces. "So that's it?" I said quietly. "You're choosing money over your own children?" Mom wouldn't meet my eyes. Dad just glared. "Get out," he said. "And don't come back until you're ready to apologize to Vanessa and Jake." I left, my legs shaky, my heart breaking all over again. As I walked away from my childhood home, I realized a hard truth: I couldn't change their minds. They were too far gone, too seduced by the promise of wealth and status. But I couldn't abandon Emma and Lily. Somehow, some way, I had to find a way to help them. To save them from Vanessa, from our parents' willful blindness, and from the fate they seemed determined to accept. That day started like any other. I was preparing for a big meeting, reviewing notes, and straightening my jacket. Then I saw the name on the guest list: Robert Thompson, CEO of Thompson Industries. Vanessa's father. My heart raced. He wouldn't know me. I'd missed the wedding, after all. But I knew him, the man whose money had torn my family apart. The meeting began, all handshakes and forced smiles. Robert didn't give me a second glance. We discussed business, crunched numbers, argued points. Then came the coffee break. I found myself next to Robert, both of us refilling our cups. He started chatting, casual small talk that somehow turned to parenting. "You know," he said, puffing up with pride, "I raised my Vanessa to be humble. Never let her flaunt our wealth. She grew up modest, well-mannered. Even married a regular guy. She respects everyone, treats them like family." Something in me snapped. Without a word, I pulled out my phone and hit play on a video I'd almost forgotten about. There was Vanessa, red-faced and screaming at the dance rehearsal. "You stupid scum," she shrieked on screen. "Pay $3,500 or get out. I won't have you ruining my wedding." The color drained from Robert's face. He watched, horrified, as his daughter berated me, my sisters, the other bridesmaids. When it ended, silence fell. "I had no idea," Robert whispered. "She's always so polite around me." I thought. I believed. I steeled myself for anger, for him to storm out. Instead, he looked at me, eyes pleading. "Please," he said. "Tell me everything." So I did. The cruel comments, the forced labor, the way she'd turned my family against me. With each word, Robert seemed to age years. "I'm so sorry," he said when I finished. "I've failed as a father. Please, let me try to make this right." Before I could respond, he was on his feet. "Come with me," he said. "Now." We drove to Jake and Vanessa's house in silence. Robert's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. The scene inside was worse than I'd imagined. Emma was there, wearing a maid's uniform, scrubbing floors. Vanessa lounged on the couch, barking orders. Robert exploded. "Vanessa, what is the meaning of this? How dare you treat people like this? Your own family." Vanessa's shock turned to anger. She pointed at Emma. "I won't apologize to servants." Robert's face turned purple. "That's it. You're cut off. No more money, no more house. I'm ashamed to call you my daughter." Jake tried to intervene. "Sir, please. The girls don't mind helping out. It's no big deal." Robert rounded on him. "And you? Letting your wife abuse your sisters? You're fired. Both of you, out of my sight." He turned to me and Emma, his voice softening. "I'm so sorry. For everything. Please, let me help make this right." As we left, Vanessa's shrieks fading behind us, I felt a mix of emotions, relief, vindication, but also sadness. This was a Pyrrhic victory at best. The fallout from Robert's intervention was swift and merciless. Instead of seeing reason, my parents doubled down on their support for Jake and Vanessa. They were furious with me, blaming me for ruining Jake's cushy life. "How could you do this to your own brother?" Mom wailed over the phone. "He had everything, and now it's all gone because of you." Dad was even worse. "You've always been jealous of Jake," he spat. "Well, congratulations. You've destroyed this family. Don't bother coming around anymore. You're not welcome here." Their words hurt, but I wasn't surprised. They'd made their choice long ago, and it wasn't me or my sisters they'd chosen. I threw myself into work, finishing up the project that had kept me in my hometown for so long. The day it was complete, I packed up my apartment and left without looking back. I found a new position in another city, desperate for a fresh start. Months passed. I built a new life, made new friends, tried to forget the family that had rejected me. But I couldn't stop worrying about Emma and Lily. I'd send texts, but the responses were always short, evasive. Then, one rainy night, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Emma and Lily, soaked to the bone, suitcases in hand. "Monica," Emma said, her voice breaking. "We need your help." Over cups of hot tea, they told me everything. Jake and Vanessa, broke and jobless, had moved back in with our parents. But instead of humbling them, it had made Vanessa even more tyrannical. "She treats the house like her personal kingdom," Lily explained. "And us? We're just her servants." "Mom and Dad don't do anything," Emma added. "They're so afraid of Jake leaving that they let Vanessa do whatever she wants." My heart broke for them. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" They exchanged guilty looks. "We were ashamed," Lily admitted. "And scared. Vanessa threatened to make things even worse if we reached out to you. But we couldn't take it anymore," Emma said. "Please, Monica. Can we stay with you?" Just until we find jobs and our own place? I didn't hesitate. Of course you can. Stay as long as you need. It wasn't easy at first. My apartment was small, and we were all adjusting to living together as adults. But slowly, we found our rhythm. I helped them polish their resumes, practiced interview techniques with them. We stayed up late, talking through years of pain and misunderstandings. Weeks turned into months. Emma found a job at a local bookstore, while Lily started taking classes at a nearby community college. They insisted on contributing to rent and groceries, even though I told them it wasn't necessary. One night, as we sat around the dinner table, laughing over some silly story, I realized something. Our parents might never come around. Jake and Vanessa might never change. But that was okay. We had each other, and that was enough. As I looked at my sisters, strong, resilient, finally free to be themselves, I knew we'd be all right. Whatever came next, we'd face it together. As a real family should.